Get it all out. I'm glad I got that little weird piggy snort that you did in there. It's going to make good editing. Whichever one of us does it. I'll leave it in, you'll chop it. So, we did one of our usual little runabouts to the comic shop today. Picked up a few cool things. Some that are too big to even have on camera just yet. But yeah, do you want to run through what we found and picked up?
So yeah, man, I think let's just get
that ready.
Sorry, guys, underprepared, you are. Okay, so
put the Jeopardy music in.
Yeah, so there's something I wanted to chat about, and I know you're not a fan, but I sent this to CGC like middle of last year.
Easily, yeah.
And I had it pressed and everything, and it is, for those of you who don't know, this is Invincible Iron Man 55. It is the first appearance of Thanos in comics. And I got a 5.0 for a comic this old. It's not too bad. It's very commendable.
Yeah.
On the market, it's about, for collectors out there, it's about a $600 comic now. So
nice. I own that too. Except mine's raw. Purist. Hashtag purist.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, but I'm just happy because, that's the problem when you send something to CGC and it's all got tracking and all that. But when a book's gotten that long and then it was through lockdown and I was like, am I ever going to get this book back? Fuck. I'd rather just have it raw and keep it so it was pretty scary. But
I'm interested to know if it was ever disinfected or if it's sealed in there potentially with COVID. Yeah.
And try market that up in value.
Don't crack this slab.
And then another one I got off a really cool Made of Ours auctions, which is the hardcover of Death.
Oh, that is beautiful. It's the deluxe edition.
And yeah, I got it for a steal, dude. It was so cheap. Like, it was actually ridiculous.
This is so beautiful. Hashtag a little bit jealous. I own the TP, but the deluxe edition is sure.
Yeah, definitely you get that new plastic because sure.
Definitely. I've got for you if you need. Whether it's magazine bag or treasury edition, one of them will cover that nicely for you.
Nice. And then another find I did, which is off the back of you, and our awesome local comic shop, Cosmic, had it on sale, which is the Scotty Young.
Scotty Young.
Well, I suppose I don't need to show the camera yet, but...
You're in the habit of...
Yeah, Deadpool versus the Marvel Universe. I'm keen to see. Deadpool's always a lot of fun, and I actually want to mention more about him later, but I haven't read near enough Marvel, and if I'm going to Deadpool, seems like an easy choice.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then the last book is pretty simple, but it is Death Metal, issue 3.
Nice. Both managed to pick that one up. Death Metal.
And I don't know if you want to mention that now, but you found one of the one-shots that came, and we talked about that, and I knew they did that in metal, but I didn't know if they were doing it for sure in Death Metal.
I don't know where I put it.
Yeah, we'll find it, but yeah, so I got to get hold of that. Like, I thought it was still a maybe that they were going to do one-shots. I didn't know they were doing it for sure, so...
I know of 2 at least. That one that I've picked up, and I can probably reach for it in the bag if you want. Give me a second, viewers. Play amongst yourselves. Why does it hurt when I breathe?
You see, this is why we need more viewers, because we could have an ad break over there and be monetized.
It's the Legends of the Dark Knight. So this is some of the new... henchman versions of the various Bruce Wayne Batmans that are in this new Death Metal. It's little short self-contained stories throughout. I think there's 3 or 4.
So if there is anyone who doesn't know, this, was based off the original Metal, and they did one-shots on all the new characters that were being developed, and they gave you one-shots on the character's origin story. That sort of gave you more context. So,
and what I liked about that was each one got their own individual one-shot comic. I liked that. 4 compacted in one, sure, I'm happy with it. But yeah, I would have liked individual one shots again for me personally. But anyway.
But yeah, man, that's my finds that I found that I want to tackle at some point.
Nice
Small little
cool
bunch of stuff.
I managed to find this new little action figure in the comic store. It's a 3 3/4 Predator Scout from the Predator movies.
Very cool. There's a bit of reflections, but
he just looks so good. I mean, for those that know me and my love for the 3 3/4 range, the G.I. Joes, all of those figures, and then there was a Marvel Universe line, same sort of sizing. He's going to fit right in there. He's got interchangeable hands. He comes with the little disc that he throws. He's got a spear, the claws that retract in and out. So everything you'd want in your Predator seems to have. So I'm going to put him in amongst all of my G.I. Joes and my Marvel guys, and he'd just be such a nice addition. Really excited that I saw that. I saw how much the rand dollar is affecting us now on his price there, but be that as it may. Some TPs that I managed to pick up. One is this one, Spawn Witchblade. After a few various YouTube videos, Todd McFarlane interviews and the likes thereof, I'm kind of getting a re-emergence for Spawn and some of the Spawn characters. So picked that up to give it a read. Picked up these beauties over here. There's 3 of them in the series, and then 2 came in for me. It's the Batman by Neil Adams. And a whole series of different detective comics and Brave and the Bolds and Batmans that are covered in here that Neil Adams drew. Various writers, but the majority of them were Denny O'Neil, and some epic stories and issues covered in these ones.
So I see, dude, here you got book 1 and book 3. Do you have book 2? Or
book 2 is apparently still coming.
Okay, gotcha.
But because it's specific, like, issue stories,
it can be read standalone.
Correct.
Okay, that's
I don't
cool.
think you'd have to read 1 through to 3 if you didn't want to.
That's good.
Yeah, man, and Neil Adams completely redefined Batman and art and all of that. So I'm super stoked. This one in a little second-hand bookstore, very, very cheap. The Todd McFarlane Spider-Man run, I think it's 1 to 6, the Torment storyline. Spidey goes up against the Lizard in this, and iconic classic Todd type stuff. I have a lot of the other Todd stuff in this Spider-Man line in TP, just not the Torment story, so I'm happy I picked that one. And this one as well, the Deadpool Classic, first volume, collecting first appearance in New Mutants, his first mini-series, and then I think the original ongoing, I think goes 1 to 4 of that is collected.
And you can see it's the typical first Rob Liefeld Deadpool art in there.
Totally, man. And again, Rob's art back here wasn't bad. Pretty proportionate. Everything kind of in line. Feet are there. Everything, man. So guns are a little bit futuristic. It wasn't his strong suit. So, but other than that, man, yeah, very, very cool. And I've been looking for that for a while, actually. That earlier Deadpool stuff. Those are red, so we'll talk about those just now. Some hard covers that I managed to pick up the microphone. It's rattling. These came out 2 years ago or so, around about the 75th anniversary.
Is this the Unchained sort of?
It is not. No, it's just a Jim Lee cover there. But this is kind of when Soups got to the 75th anniversary mark. This is a couple of the classic stories in here. So it's got the Alan Moore story, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Yeah, nice. It's got the... which other ones? It's got that classic one where Superman Annual number 11 where Mogo traps him and he has that sort of dream thing or whatever. Also an Alan Moore story. And a few other classic ones. I think it's even got Superman versus the Elite story in here too. So it's got some really cool one-shot issue Supermans. And that's why I got them, because these are just random great sort of Superman stories. The same thing with this one. Certain classic cool Green Lantern stories in this one. There's a Darwin Cook one in there. Some with Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver. I think potentially there's even that one that I told you about that Alan Moore did where they introduced Mogo, the Living Planet. I think they're all in here. And then a very cool one, the Joker one. And this one's got some cool ones too, like I think it's got some bits from Death of the Family. The Laughing Fish story in here.
Yeah, you can see him on the covers.
I think it's got Joker number 1 from Bob Kane back in those days. So, yeah, man, some epic Joker stories encapsulated in this one too. And then finally, I think I mentioned at one point, I'm on a little bit of a drive to upgrade or enhance certain classic stories. And in doing so, because I bought the 2 hardcovers for Doomsday Clock, I thought I would need to pair it up with something similar. So I've decided to get The Watchmen in deluxe edition. I don't even know if this is deluxe edition or just oversized hardcover. No, it's not deluxe edition. But it is the right size to complement and sit next to my Doomsday Clocks.
Nice.
So that'll be quite nice on the shelf there, I think. And hardcover, it will last longer, sit on the shelf, etc., etc. I really thought it was a deluxe edition. A bit disappointed in that. I wanted deluxe.
Cue the meltdown on camera.
Yeah, man. So in amongst... Oh, and then we also got one more find that I managed to pick up that just not only hurts the bag, but it hurts to carry.
Yeah. You need to make space for this.
There you go, folks. We'll just do some sort of a comparison initially, just to give people an idea.
Scale, yeah.
Yeah, so we probably have to open it. This is the Michael Turner Artist Edition of Superman and Batman. So we'll take it out. It's so heavy. It has to come in a special box. Michael Turner Artist Edition, or Gallery Edition as they call it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys can tell this is massive, but we'll maybe put something for scale.
Yeah, so let's do that. That is a standard sized trade paperback.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ginormous.
For those of you on... There we go, look, that's a standard sized trade paperback. And that is the Artist Edition. So to give some folks who have never seen or heard of an Artist Edition context, literally this is basically the size of the papers that artists use on their drawing boards. In fact, you can actually see them in here. They've basically just taken them and scanned them in as is. So along all the borders of this book, you see the DC lines to indicate where the guy needs to draw within. It's got DC logos on it. It's even got parts where the guy can write in what page number it is and all of that. So when the guys collate it, it's all in there. So this is the second Artist Edition that I own now, and man, I'm a huge fan of them. I mean, Mark can attest. We were looking through it briefly, and just the pencil work and what you get to see in the terms of the creative process.
Yeah.
Oh, it's for me, it's well worth the price of admission. And they're not cheap. They're expensive, and you found it at this ridiculous price. They were literally selling it for half price.
Yeah.
So based on that, you know, there's absolutes that are more expensive than it. So I had to bite the bullet, and I had to get it. And Mark graciously then bought me lunch because I have no more money. No more money for a while. And I'm going to be begging on the streets and asking folks for donations to our podcast. We'll insert account details in the comments section. Transfer what you feel. Yeah, so in amongst all of the spree, the shopping, the finds, and that, we both actually got to read some stuff.
Yeah.
Let's kick off. What did you dabble in?
So the first one I want to touch on, I won't go too deep into it because you have touched on it, but I read the Joker 80-year anniversary.
Nice.
You know, I've got a different cover to you. And for those who didn't see the episode, Warren covered this in quite cool detail. It's got a bunch of single issues.
I tried.
Single stories.
What did you think?
I have to agree with you. Like, there was some that were really cool, but there was some that was hit and miss for me. Like, I think it's the first one where it's like that. I think they're speaking. Joker's speaking the psychologist.
Not Joker. It's someone's going to therapy. Yes.
Yes, and that story was pretty hectic. I digged it, and the ending and all that.
Was,
The punchline story wasn't bad. You know, and I did like what they touch on the whole generation thing, that you could be whatever you wanted, the whole dress up thing.
Yeah. I kind of liked that whole. For me, it was how it's almost as this it appealed to that emerging psychopath kind of thing, where she's dabbled, she's experimented, and getting it right with the headmaster, so to speak. And
the one thing I didn't like is, it's the obvious catchphrase where she says, "You're the whatever," and this is the punchline.
I'm the punchline. Yeah.
But then afterwards, then she's like, Mr. J, did I do well enough? Like, to me, that there wasn't necessary.
You could have ended it on I'm the punchline.
Yeah.
Agreed. 100%.
Then the one randomly, I don't know if you remember the story, but it's where Joker says he's bored and he's doing a bank heist, and then he goes on this thing where these dudes that don't kill.
Yes.
And like I found it very Ace Ventura-ish when he's dressed up like that in the forest and stuff. And I was entertained, but I won't lie, like, spoiler alert, but halfway through the story, when they started going on how they never kill, I'm like, this is going to end in Joker killing all of them.
You could see it coming a mile away, yeah. For me, that story reminds me of that old parable with the scorpion who needs to get a lift across the river from the frog. And halfway through, the scorpion stings. The frog says, I won't because you're going to sting me. And the scorpion says, no, I won't. Halfway through, scorpion stings the frog. And as the poison kicks in and as it starts to drown, the frog says, but why? You're going to die too. And the scorpion says, well, it's in my nature. For me, that story is very, it's coming. He's going to wipe and kill them all out because it's just his nature. That's the Joker.
Yeah. So, and this is going to tie into something I'm going to say later. So some of them were hit and miss for me, but I'm glad I bought it, and I like how vastly different all the stories are on the art and stuff, and
and certain people compliment certain writers, and like you say, some maybe didn't, but if hit and miss, I don't know.
But I've got to, and this is a fault of mine, I've got to always constantly remind myself that not every story has to have this gut wrenching, life changing ending. Sometimes a story can just be a story, So, and that actually, I don't know if we want to go one or if I must go through all the stuff I read.
Keep going if you're on a roll.
Cool. But the next thing I read, and this is quite cool for me, like I've mentioned this, but I want to touch on more Marvel because I'm very DC heavy. And this is one of those, like, go through the shelf and just it came out at me. And Kira actually bought this for me years ago at Rage, our old, it came before Comic-Con. It used to be like...
Oh, yes, I remember that. Isn't Rage the more gaming orientated?
Yeah, it definitely is. But because we didn't have Comic-Con... at a stage, it was the kind of the best we got, and most of the comic shops would be there and stuff.
This is true.
So like, I haven't read much of like Deadpool and stuff, and Tony Moore's on art on this, which I really enjoyed. It really had cool pacing.
Okay, must we get some of your Tony Moore shots? Like that's
you can.
Let's get a Tony Moore splash page.
And just in a nutshell, this whole TP is a collection of stories, and the sort of crux behind it is that this dude you don't know at first. Hates the way society's going and hates how everything's become. So he does some like weird voodoo witchcraft spell, whatever, that brings back all the old presidents to sort the thing out. And
like American presidents.
Yeah, and it goes horribly wrong. And everyone from Lincoln to there's presidents there I don't even know because I'm not that familiar with American history.
Are you familiar with American history X?
But you've made me lose my train of thought. But anyway, so in a nutshell, so the first, I don't know which president is, but Captain America gets involved out of all people and he wipes them out easy peasy. And then it's like all this bad press on how can Captain America kill an old president or whatever, and that goes horribly south. So S.H.I.E.L.D. get involved and they're like, no, we need to do this another way. And lo and behold, obviously Deadpool with the really shitty reputation gets pulled in. But what I can say is, the thing is, I haven't read much Deadpool, so I don't have anything to compare it to, but what I can say is right from the onset, like the breaking the fourth wall, the humor, like I just was reading this in Reynolds' voice all along and it helped so much and it's got cool pacing, it's over the top. Eventually Deadpool even ends up in space fighting one of the presidents. And it's really so over the top and he gets stabbed so many times and killed and he heals and there's even one thing where he's trying to lure the one president in. He fakes and he dresses up like Marilyn Monroe. It's ridiculous, dude, but it works so well. And I really, really enjoyed it. And there's one place where, like even the writer will have like Deadpool, like where they come back to a moment and he's like, and then Deadpool's like, remember, go back to issue 1 if you've forgotten. Like, and he breaks the fourth wall like that and reminds you.
Nice.
And it's really, really cool. The only critique I can have is I do feel towards the end, like they could have wrapped the story up a bit quicker. They did milk it a little bit longer than they needed to. It felt like I don't know how long this run was. I don't know if it was 12 issues or, but it could have been
6 issues in there. Just looking at
thickness.
Looks
and
about
even
46.
even Doctor Strange comes through sometime or another, and he's like super arrogant. And Wong's also there, just trailing around, following him like an arse fly. But it all works. But I just felt towards the end, I'm like, okay, well, it's killed all the presidents. It's all similar, and it kind of just like it drags on just that too long. But I must say, for like my first official Deadpool read in Marvel, I really enjoyed it. I could recommend it to any new readers and stuff, especially if you like
the movies.
Yeah, exactly. It's so it's so many humors where I'm like, did they get this from Reynolds? It felt so like par for the course,
Cool.
So
Nice. I'd seen this floating around, and I'll earmark it maybe to get it myself. Dead Presidents. Nice.
And then the final one, which I'm going to bring up, I haven't finished reading, but we mentioned in the previous episode, which is this DC's Guide to Writing Comics, done by Dennis O'Neil. And you asked me one or two questions, and I wanted to comment on that. And I don't know if anyone will remember that, but you asked
the various ways of crafting a story.
It's very, very traditional, but I'm really enjoying it. And what's really cool is, there is some stuff, but he goes like the different types of speech bubbles and what they mean and how they use and how stuff was used in the old days and like it's not so much anymore, and how you use whispers. And I've only
obviously the first key differentiator we can say on what you're talking about is anything that was circular was a thought bubble versus something that was strung hard line around was speech bubbles actually speaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like even here, you'll see like this is Kingdom Come, if I'm not mistaken. And he shows how is it Mark Twain or
Mark Wade?
Yeah, Mark Wade. What am I saying? And he'll say like it shows how the guy explains it to the artist, and there's even parts where it says to the artist, "It doesn't really bother me. Do your own thing," which is I just find that really interesting. So. You asked
creative license in a way.
Yeah, you asked a question, and I think there's even I can't remember if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's a couple of things, but there's the different speech bubbles that I mentioned.
Show people. So there you can see there's some proper spoken word, screamy, shouty, given the edges, thought bubble. The dotted lines usually meant whisper or quieter. Yeah.
And what I found so interesting is I didn't know any of this, but when you read in comics, you automatically know it. And I was like, how did I automatically? It was, and I found that really, really interesting. So I'm still going to read the rest of it, but
and all of that is also covered in that Understanding Comics.
Yeah.
By I can't believe I've forgotten who did it now.
But it wasn't one of your finds, I remember. Yeah. Yes. So super intrigued, going to carry on reading it really. But to answer the one question you asked is, we talked about how Gaiman does little sketches, and this seems very traditional movie script sort of from what Dennis O'Neil's. I don't know if he will touch on that later, but from what I can tell, it's very, and he explains the job of a penciler and an inker and
that's cool.
and all that. So it is very traditional, but he does say, we don't use that anymore, or that's not that fashionable anymore, and it faded out. So yeah, man, that's what I've been reading.
That's very cool. Interesting. Nice, man. I managed to just read two different things. Both of them are Rick and Morty stories. The first one is Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons.
Sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, totally, man. And it's published by Oni Press, IDW, but through Oni Press, who apparently have the Rick and Morty license. They've also got the Invaderism and a few other things. They do a lot of manga stuff too. And this, I must say, it was, if you're a fan of Rick and Morty and you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, both will appeal to you. For me, the first one is, they did it well. It's very much introductory in a way. So the basic premise is some kids at Morty's school are getting into D&D and starting to play it, and he's hearing these terms being thrown around. He has no clue. He comes home and he wants to ask the family about what is this D&D thing, mostly because he gets a date with a girl, lying and sort of forcing his way through it, and then she invites him to a D&D session, and he has to kind of like crash course himself. So he goes online, he tries to find as much as he can, and it's just foreign. Like, he's trying to reinterpret the manuals. He has no clue what they're talking about. And then Rick kind of comes on the scene, and for me, that was like the first real twist, is you kind of expect Rick to shit all over the whole thing because he's Rick and, fuck all the stuff. And as Rick sees that Morty's trying to learn D&D, like his eyes light up and it's like, oh, Morty, I'm so happy you've come of age kind of thing. And turns out Rick is like this big ultimate D&D fan, and he's got his own D&D club that play regularly, and he brings Morty in to kind of show and teach Morty the basics of D&D. And I won't say too much from there, but that's kind of the initial premise of all of this. And for me reading it, I was just like, I was waiting for that moment for Rick to shit all over it and completely destroy D&D. And it's like, well, actually he's a fan. Okay, I didn't see that coming. Let's see where this goes. The second one has, Rick and Morty vs. Dungeons and Dragons, Chapter 2, Painscape. A different one. So now, you know, it kicked off a little bit disorientatingly for me, because it's like the family are completely and utterly like mad and gaga for D&D. Like they're watching, they've got in Rick and Morty, they've got their TV, they can watch different dimensional TV programs, and they've tuned into a D&D TV program and they're watching it, and they're like sitting there going, oh my god, no, I can't believe this person's in this situation, they can't kill her off. I mean, she's carried the story for the last 6 episodes, like there's no way, she needs to roll like at least a 16, and they're sitting there going, come on, and then she rolls a 17 and the whole family like erupts and like, yes. And like Rick's dad and Morty's dad, can't believe this now. I can't even remember what Morty's dad's name is.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, he's like the character that just gets shat all over the whole time. So I don't even remember his name. I just know him as Morty's dad.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anyway, so he's like sitting there and he's doing all online shopping, buying new things for his characters, like Thor's hammer here and a different suit of armor over there. And he's using Beth's credit card to Jerry. That's it. Yeah. And he's using Beth's credit card and asking her for that. And Summer is even hooked. And Rick like comes in, and I was like, okay. And Rick like completely shits all over everything. And I'm like, okay, now this is what I expected in the first one. What's going on? And he does, like, he steals some of Morty's blood, puts it under a microscope, and it turns out they're all infected. Like, the entire world is infected with D&D, disease, fever, whatever you want to call it. When he looks under the microscope, all of their DNA doesn't look like normal DNA. It all looks like little polyhedral dice with interconnecting strands and stuff. So he's like, no, someone's infected, something's wrong. Him and Morty go into another D&D dimension, and it turns out there's this sorcerer who has cast this spell on their world and other realms and stuff like that, and it just turns out to be Sorcerer Rick! Sorcerer Rick. So there is another Rick in this universe, or in the multiverse, and this one is a D&D sorcerer, and he wants to infect everything with D&D, and that's kind of where the story goes from there. They build up a party and they have to try and
nice. It seems cool.
Yeah, totally. And I must say, man, this one, both of them have Jim Zub, who did it. I know he came to South Africa to some cons, did some signing and that, and a few other people collaborating with. And dude, I've got to say, man, art-wise, it's spot on. It's I mean, you can see just from the covers, it's Rick and Morty. There's no way around. I think Jim Zub is doing the regular comic books and graphic novels too. So it's spot on. It's like watching a Rick and Morty episode for me. And in fact, it might even be almost like a two-parter in a way. So you could see it as it's a self-contained Rick and Morty episode, almost like a part 1, part 2 kind of thing. I really enjoyed them, man. They really were cool, nicely done. All the kookiness and wackiness of Rick and Morty is in here. All the gadgets, the this, the that, and they keep to the D&D lore at the same time.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I was curious when I heard that they were doing it. Just the marriage of the two worlds, D&D and Rick and Morty. That alone, I was like, okay, I'm in. I need to see where this is going. Yeah, great. If you can find them, pick them up, man. For really, really enjoyable reads.
Nice.
So, if you liked what Mark and I were talking about here, or just like our content in general,
please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more videos.
And yeah, do us a favor and find us on the social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the next video.